the only one in town. Buys her bagel button down. She pulled me near. She said, if it's love you're looking for, you better walk some more, 'cause it's a far, far cry from here. Welcome back, dear listeners. Thank you for joining us for our fourth Autopsy. You've just heard a snippet of A Far Cry From Here. That was one of my favourites so far. You can get that in our
borderline banger.
Borderline banger, yeah. I liked the rhythm, I liked the words. But anyway, we talked in length and breadth about that last time. Today, we're back in the attic with Douglas Guest as our guest, aptly named. So I couldn't miss that one. Steve and myself.
Douglas.
Yeah, welcome Douglas.
Thank you for inviting me.
So for those that haven't listened in before, what is Steve Attick's songs about? It's about Steve's quest to write a banger, and he has tasked himself with writing an original piece of music every month this year. And then he plays that piece of music to myself and an unsuspecting guest. Well, not too unsuspecting, because they know what they're semi-unsuspecting.
Unsuspecting victim.
And so we play the track, react to it, score it, and then talk a little bit about the creative process. And that'll take up about 20 minutes. So that's what Steve's Attic Songs is about. So welcome, Douglas. Thanks for joining us. Could you tell us a little bit more about why you're here, what your relationship to music is?
My relationship to music is one of being an intimate fan who's been to many a gig, been backstage. My claim to fame was once a security man for a small Scottish band called the Supernaturals. So I'm a big fan with an eclectic music taste, interested in all genres and the process. You know, I'm always fascinated by the process, and I'm interested in that bit of where and what is creativity. I'm a trainer by trade, I'm a development worker, so I sometimes have to do writings that might earn my charity hundreds of thousands of pounds, and my ideas might be the creative element that does that. So I have done spoken word and poetry and written short stories that haven't got me anywhere. Some have been published in small magazines, but then I realised that I do write, and sometimes my writing is worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. So it's both business and art, because it's the business of coming up with a prototype, compelling case. It's coming up with an idea, then testing that idea and developing some structure around it. It's finding the evidence base for this, so it's academic research into practice. And then it is, how do you colour it so that people understand it and can consume it? There's more art to it than I realised when I started doing it.
So part of it is writing stories. I mean, there's a story at the core of it all.
Yeah, many years ago I used to be involved in community development and storytelling, and it was seen as airy-fairy or fluffy. And then suddenly some PR people came up with the narrative, and everything was narrative-driven, you know. So narrative is what drives us all. We're human beings, we tell stories to each other, and we bring our own creativity to each time we tell a story, that lived history of who we are.
When I started this process, I thought if I get a really good tune, the narrative doesn't matter, but 3 or 4 songs in, the symbiosis between the narrative and the tune, in other words, how they reinforce each other, has suddenly jumped to the top of the target list when I'm trying to think about what my next song is. At the end of the last podcast, I said that for this podcast, I'd try and write something which was a little more punky, but in view of our respective ages, it wouldn't be full-on thrash. It would be more sort of ironic punk, post-punk, I don't know, new wave, something of that genre. So I present for your critique today, You Love My Life. Young girls chasing me, you love my life. In my penthouse by the sea, you love my life. And I'm so easy to adore, you love my life. But your mother ain't so sure, you love my life. I'm a sexy man, yeah. You love my life, you love my life, you love my life. typical, too popular to call, too cute to take the fall, but you love my life. You're all wearing my signature scent, but you love my life. But I'll break your heart for Lent, you love my life. You can buy my sweat in a can, you love my life. No doubt I'm a ladies' man, you love my life. I'm a sexy man, I'm a sexy man, yeah. You love my life, you love my life, you love my life. Your kid's iconoclast, appeal is unsurpassed, clothesline is selling fast, you love my life. Wasn't pleasant when I was at school. They said that I would never learn. Look at me now, I'm hotter than cool, and I'm gonna make their lives burn. Sorry, not at all, you love my life. Sorry, I'm just having a ball, you love my life. Sorry, but what's a boy to do, you love my life. But watch my ample cash accrue, you love my life. I'm a sexy man, yeah, I'm a sexy man, yeah. You love my life, you love my life, you love my life. If I'm damned to hell, your papers will still sell, your shares are doing well, and your sister's leaving town, and you'll find me face down, still in my dressing gown, and you love my life. Dear God.
And you had fun writing that one.
I always have fun.
Lyrically, that was good.
The Steve's Attic Songs Bangerama podcast is searchable on Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. The episode can also be accessed via Steve's Attic Songs Bangerama YouTube channel. You can contact Steve and James via email at stevesatticsongs@gmail.com. The song demo files played during the podcast episodes are separately available on the Bandcamp app and can be streamed free by searching for Steve's Artists page at The Saws, spelt THE space SAWS. No login or registration is required. You can also contact Steve direct by email from The Saws page on Bandcamp. Lyrics are also published on Bandcamp.
Where did you buy that voice?
That's my
Steve?
BBC voice.
That's your BBC
That's my
voice?
BBC voice. Yes. They never phoned me and asked me to...
For it back?
No.
It's just as well they've gone regional, isn't it, then?
Retro pitch, what was all that about? From a lyrical point of view, it's about the public's love-hate relationship with pop stars who achieve fast fame. Musically, yeah, on the whole, a fairly classic, upbeat, post-punk effort.
Dripping in irony.
I think it should be recorded by Bill Nighy when he does the pop rock star in Love Actually 2, because I think he never had a song that he really did in Love Actually, but it definitely you channel Bill Nighy Love Actually.
It would have sat beautifully with his character, because he's basically saying, I've got it all, and I'm loving it.
Most punk songs are 2 minutes. So I'd be interested to know how long that song was.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So it's slightly over 3 minutes, if I remember correctly.
Punk ballad.
But the punk ballads in the day were 2 minutes.
Punk ballads?
In the day, when it was the 70s and they all came out. They barely made it past 2 minutes. You know, some of the ones that I'm really surprised at, Elvis Costello songs, 1 minute 50 and things like that.
Just belt it out.
Yeah, so that, I would say you ruined the song with the third verse.
Oh, I see. Right.
I would say
ruined.
You're missing a third verse, and I've got some suggestions on what you could have named. Checked Elvis, Sid Vicious, lots of other people. Because changing the tempo in that third verse into some sort of 60s
the middle eight
dreamscape was beyond bizarre.
Yeah, it's quite Ian Dury and the Blockheads that Ian Dury does stand out as someone who put those sorts of middle eights in to some of his songs. So that was the thinking.
So I've got a question: were you spoofing yourself there, or were you deliberately tripping yourself up because you didn't believe in it?
Was I spoofing myself?
Good question.
My creative process is when I write it, I get it exactly how I want it in a certain time box. So normally anything I do, whether it's sort of poetry, prose or music, I would normally park and come back after a month and a half when I've forgotten about it and then listen to it again, and I would make changes at that point. When I'm sort of saying, not so sure about this, that's me coming back after doing my second edit. But unfortunately, it's hard baked in. So when I score it, which we'll do a little later on, I'm bringing my reservations to it as well.
Yeah, because I think if you had a producer, he would have ditched that middle eight and asked you to go and write another verse,
or just removed it. I thought it was funny and amusing, and I went with it because the brief was punk irony, and there was a lot of self-referential. I mean, you were singing like Johnny Rotten or Lydon at some points.
Was I? Wow.
Yeah, and I thought that was on purpose. So there's like musical or references back to those. Whereas the middle eight, I was getting less Ian Dury and more punky stuff. So the middle eight was amusing, but I didn't feel that it brought anything.
In an earlier version of it, I sang in a Cockney accent.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, I thought, what if I just sung that in a Cockney accent? No, obviously Ian Dury, Cockney accent. So when I then tried to do sort of the final version, I thought I need to sort of veer away from that. And in terms of actually what voice am I going to use for this, that was the only thing I was thinking, is try not to sing in a Cockney accent. So I wasn't intentionally, I guess, trying to be Johnny Rotten, or if it sounds like Johnny Rotten, then so be it. John Lydon, let's call him John Lydon.
No, I got the Sex Pistols skids, the fast guitars, the good bass and drums to begin with. I got the speed, I got the energy, and then when that third verse went in, I just fell flat on my face. I was going,
well, this isn't Genesis. Yeah. Okay. So the lyrics I like, simple, catchy, ironic. I mean, the backing vocals. I really think you got it right this time compared to two songs ago. Did sound like you actually had 2 or 3 people who weren't you singing in the background and keeping tune.
Yeah.
And the music was original. It was fun. I had my foot tapping. There's some hooks in there, but it's true that all the hooks that the song had in me, again, the middle eight kind of shook them off.
You definitely did what you said you'd do on the tin sense of it. So I got a feeling that there was a punk band in your attic, and maybe that punk band in your head worked quite well, and at some stage you tried to escape into some 60s dream sequence. But if we can ignore that, I think I'd love to hear verse 3 again, because I don't know whether you came back with verse 3 was as strong enough as the first 2 verses, but that's not unusual in the punk songs. Punk songs have that sort of trajectory of a shooting star that then fails to open.
To deploy, yeah. It came together well. Production, balance levels, everything that we heard from the speaker. It sounded like an entire song, whereas song 2, I felt that it had been kind of, you'd overproduced some bits and underproduced others. So this works. And I think you could even underproduce it more, give it that raw kind of punky sound, and even remove some of the trills and frills that you kind of finished it with, the kind of the horns at the end and the drums.
Yeah, simplifying. Yeah, simplifying
I can't even remember.
Simplifying it for me would work, because that's what the sound was about, punk. So yeah, I think you played to your strengths in parts. The production, you kept it simple, but you kept it to the rules of the genre. So I'm quite interested in what genres attract you and why, what ones play to your strengths, and what genres do you imagine you'll get your banger in. Because this is close. This is progress.
The genres that I've sort of committed to right at the start, I don't try and write something that I don't have a natural affinity to, so I'm not going to write a rap, for example. I'm not going to try and appropriate genres that I'm not intimately familiar with and love. So it's going to be the pop, rock, punk, or sort of new wave, ska, rock and roll, blues. That's the canvas that I will use. That said, I do write ballads, so that comes under pop. I should have stood up from my chair at that point. At some point, I'm going to say, hey, next one I'm going to write a ballad. And we'll see where we go with that.
Ballads always give me a feel of production, and wondering whether a folk ballad is more your production style rather than the pop ballad. And
well, there's no doubt about it. A ballad will give me more of a production and performance challenge.
What's obvious is you lyrically you have the ability to get the catchy lyrics. So that's been a running thread through the podcast. Mad Girl had good lyrics, just poor production. So this one's got good lyrics, and you kept it simple in the production. So I would suggest you go for the ballad sooner rather than later and fall flat on your face.
Well, I mean, this podcast is really all about trying stuff and falling flat on the face to some degree, isn't it?
The power to you for being brave and experimenting out on the edge of the tree branch. Just make sure you're sitting on the other side when you're sawing next time. Okay, is it time for some numbers?
Scores, yes.
And the doors, George Doors.
So we agreed that we can use kind of fractions, so 2.153 if you so care.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide on what fraction to use. You've obviously got to have half a point at least deducted for the middle eight. It's like when the referee in a boxing match says that's it.
That's how I do it. That's how I do
punched below the belt one many times.
Douglas, do you want to start?
Yeah, I thought this was a game of two halves, to take the football pun. I was struggling to get over the 3.5. The lack of strength in the third verse as well. It works well, but we needed. It didn't really come back from the middle eight. So I think it's 3.25 for me is the scores.
I'm going to give it a simple 4 because these are seeds, and it's how much potential does it have? With a bit of tweaking, it has potential. So I'm going to give it a 4. Like the lyrics, found it original, agree that extra chorus didn't really fit. But I like the punk aspect and the irony in it. It really, that worked for me.
Things that I would dock it for, I'd certainly dock it a half for originality, which I've alluded to. I think I take the point with the middle eight. I would also say just generally the production, listening to it again now, there's some bits which are a bit ropey. 3.5 for me. So takeaways from that, I guess caution wherever I'm slowing everything down for a middle eight. If I'm going to do that, I have to think about how it does come back up and what it really is adding. I suppose my own review is I'm not sure that type of style ultimately is good banger material. And for next month, I don't really know what I'm doing for next month yet. I might try something ska. Mm-hmm. Or I might try something more, let's just call it rock edgy, and I'll leave it at that. So similar, new instruments. There'll be similar instruments, but there's probably not going to be in that second option. There's probably not going to be too many violins. Let's face it.
Okay. Well, the mouth organ last one was good.
Well, okay, I might bring the mouth organ back if demand. If people email us and say, Steve, you will not write a banger unless you bring back the mouth organ, then I might think about it.
Well, speaking of feedback, we are really curious and would love to hear what you think of Steve's songs. Don't be shy, send us an email to stevesatticsongs@gmail.com, all in one, and tell us what you think. So don't forget to plug the fridge back in, because you may lose Bob's bits if you do. Douglas, any closing words from you?
Yeah, I'm curious about the ballad. I think I think that's going to be the one that hits the ones and zeros. And I think you might need that before you can.
Dare you.
Before you my signature sense, but you love my life. But I'll break your heart for let you love